second public hearing on the budget. And at the beginning, I have a brief statement that I need to read as part of our emergency meeting, and I'll try to make it as quick as I can. So, as president of the Concord School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm conferring that first, we're providing public access by telephone with additional access by video and also through CCTV. Specifically, we're using Microsoft Teams for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously through this meeting, during the meeting through the platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate by dialing 925-391-1169 with a conference ID of 722-083-78#, or the public can participate by clicking on the link provided on the SAU website, or by watching the meeting on CCTV's education channel, which is channel 6 on Comcast. It's also being streamed on YouTube under Concord NHTV. And the recording of the meeting will also be posted on the CCTV's website. So when the time comes for public comment, we will take public comment in accordance with our policy number 136 by going through and unmuting phone lines one by one during the public comment period. And public comments, as always under our policy, are limited to 5 minutes per person. If it's possible to make the comments shorter, if we have a lot of people, we do ask people to do that if they can. And we always encourage the submission of citizen comments via email at concordinfo@sau8.org. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. The meeting was posted in a legal notice that ran in the Concord Monitor on March 24th, 2020, and instructions for participating have also been posted on the board's website at sau8.org. We do have a mechanism where the public can alert us during the meeting if they're having trouble accessing the meeting, and that is to call 603-513-9008. And if the public is unable to access the meeting, then we will attempt to fix the technical problem, and if we cannot do so, we will adjourn and reschedule the meeting. So because all the board members are participating remotely, all of the votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. At this hearing, we don't anticipate that we will make any motions, but they will be by roll call. And so the first thing I want to do is take attendance of the board members by roll call and ask that each member, when you state your presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law. So let me go through our board members. Ms. Cannon.
Yes, I'm here. I can see everybody that has their camera on. I can hear and respond, and I am here by myself.
Great, thank you. Mr. Croto.
I'm here, and I'm alone.
Great, thank you, Mr. Croto. And you can hear and be heard.
I can, thank you.
Mr. Crush.
Yes, I'm here in my room alone. I can hear and be heard and see those with the camera on. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Crush. Ms. Higgins. So not seeing Ms. Higgins at this time. Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker, it looks like you're in the meeting, but maybe your microphone is muted. Okay, I'll come back to Mr. Parker.
Jenny, the DP might be me, Donna Pally.
No, I see you, Donna, thank you, and I also see Dave Parker. So we'll see whether we can confirm his attendance in a second. Ms. Poinier?
Yep, I'm here, I'm alone, and I can hear and be heard. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Mr. Richards?
Yes, I'm here, I'm alone, and I can hear everyone.
Great, thank you, Mr. Richards. Ms. Smith?
I'm here and I can hear everybody and I'm by myself.
Great, thank you. And I'm Jennifer Patterson. I am here, I am by myself, and I can hear everyone. I'm going to circle back to the other board members to see if they've joined. Ms. Higgins, have you joined? It looks like we do not have Ms. Higgins. Mr. Parker, are you able to confirm that you're here? I do have a Dave Parker signed in, but the microphone is muted, so for purposes of roll call, I will assume that we do not have Ms. Higgins or Mr. Parker at this time. So, again, this is a public hearing on the budget. I will momentarily turn this over to our administrators.
Hey, Jenny,
Yes.
I am here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I thought you were here.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Parker, correct?
Yes, I've been here for like 10 minutes.
I saw your name, but I couldn't hear you saying anything. And are you alone, or are you with anybody
I am,
else?
sorry, I stepped back for a minute.
Oh,
I
okay.
So, yeah, no, I'm here and I'm alone.
Great. Thank you, and I am glad to confirm that you're here. So we have everybody here except Ms. Higgins at the moment. So momentarily, I will turn this over to Mr. Dunn and Dr. Bath to present the budget. This is our second public hearing. So we may have a more abbreviated presentation or not. So we'll hear the presentation. If board members have questions, we'll have the board members' questions. And then again, as I stated at the beginning, we will take public comments. And so that will be it. And I will be closing this meeting promptly at 6:45, so we can prepare for our monthly meeting, which is at 7.
Jack, I'm going
Hopefully
to
that
go
will give us
first, and
enough
I'm going to
time
go to
hear
you,
all
all
the
right?
public comment. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Bath.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So just to recap, let's take a 30,000-foot view of where we're at. So last week when we talked to you,
You're very echoey.
I'm echoing. Hold on, let me try this again.
It must be that.
I could be in my sound. Hold on, let me just try something. All right, is this better? Is this better?
I think it's better, yeah?
Okay. I can't hear you as well, but as long as you can hear me right now, that's all that matters. So again, taking a 30,000-foot view of where we were last week and where we are right now. So as you recall, last week we came in with a budget of about $1.5 million under what we had presented at our previous meetings. We spent a long time going through the rationale as to the whys and wherefores of that particular budget, but again, seeing the economic downturn that was clearly ahead of us, we decided to preempt that and to look at a more reasonable budget that was in line with some of the concerns that we're facing within the larger community. And so, our job is to sort of fathom where that fine line is between the economy and what our needs are for the school. So again, we came in with $1.5 million less than what we had started with. Now, at the last meeting, as you recall, some board members had raised some concerns and said, well, you know what, that's all well and good, and we appreciate what you guys have done. However, we want to make sure that some of the issues that were raised over the course of the winter regarding our elementary schools in particular, that those issues are being addressed in a clear, coordinated fashion. And so having this budget be as lean as it is leads us to believe that perhaps it will not be in the direction that we would like to see. So the board intimated to me that they would like to have me come back and give some color to what we might be able to do in response to that. So if you look in your packet, you have option A and option B, which is towards the end of your booklet. Option A is where we currently stand, what we brought to you the last time with the 1.5 million reduction. Option B is I've added 3 positions back in. So there are 2 positions at the elementary school, and note that I said TBD. In other words, to be determined. I don't want to state categorically what they will be at this point in time. I need some time to think it through and talk to the principals and figure out what's the best way to utilize those resources at the elementary level. So again, we have 2 at the elementary level and 1 at the middle school level, which brings us to 3. So I've added 3 positions, or approximately $300,000 to the budget. And Jack will give you more color and clarity on, what those numbers mean. But before I move over to Jack, I also want to bring up one other issue. It was raised last week about the deaf and hard of hearing position moving from a 0.6 to a 0.8, which we had done. Again, with the issue with the coronavirus issue, we had pulled that back. We left it at a 0.6. It was raised at our last meeting. The board members asked us to give some consideration to that. Our thought was, and certainly the board can respond, our thought was to use the leftover monies within the grant funds that we know certainly will have, at least for this next year, and to be able to bump that up to a 0.8, which was our desire to do. If the board wants to reconsider that and to have it come out of the budget, that's certainly something we can look at. But that, in large measure, is the budget in a nutshell in terms of what happened last week versus to where we are this week.
So, Dr. Beth, I think it's still fairly challenging to hear you, and I'm wondering whether you and Jack both have your microphones on your computers, and it may work better if
I'll turn mine back on. Is that better? Can you hear me better now?
now it's still quite an echo. I'm not sure what we can do about it.
All right, how about if I talk, how about right here? How's this?
I think that's a little bit better. I think there's also been a request to identify what administrators are present, so maybe we should do that also just briefly. For
Sure.
purposes of the minutes.
Okay, so I can't see everybody on my screen, but I know Donna Paley is here, our assistant superintendent. Jack Dunn is here, who is our business administrator. And if there's other folks here, please identify yourselves.
Larry Prince, I'm here.
Thank you, Larry.
Great, thank you.
For those folks who don't know, Larry is our HR director.
And Matt Cashman, I'm here as well.
Matt Cashman is our facilities director. Thank you, Matt. I think that's it, Jenny.
Okay, great. Was there someone else who wanted to speak?
Paulette Fitzgerald, principal of Rutland.
Oh, Paulette, didn't hear you.
Great, thank you, Paulette. Okay, let's keep going, and I hope people are able to hear. It is a little challenging. Please bear with us.
All right, Jenny, were you okay with what I said? Were you able to hear everything I said?
I think I heard most of it. I'll ask other board members whether they had questions or anything that they were unable to hear.
I missed approximately half.
Okay, I'll do a recap if folks don't mind. I'll do a recap and I'll keep it real simple and straightforward. All right?
See if they can hear you okay. I'm completely shut off. But
Jenny?
Let's try again and see whether with Jack here shut off temporarily, we're able to hear better.
Okay, I'll try once again. So, as you recall, we came back with you to a budget of about $1.5 million less than what our proposals were during the initial portions of the budget hearings. We did that as a result of the economic downturn that we felt was surely going to come, and we wanted to pay homage to our taxpayers and to be as cognizant of some of the difficulties that they were going to be facing. And so that's why we trimmed the budget back to where it was last week, which is $1.5 million less than what it currently was. Also note that many of the positions that we wanted to bring in that we thought would have been great boost for our school system in terms of addressing some issues that have been brought to bear, we were unable to do. We had pulled those positions back, but I do want to clarify that at no time do any of us feel that our current budget right now puts our school system in any kind of a jeopardy situation. So no one's losing their job, we're not losing any programs, everything will maintain itself going forward if this budget were to stay exactly where it is. So that's kind of where we were last week. As you know, as we presented this board last week, there were several board members who said, well, that's great and we appreciate that, but we'd also like to hear some more about what we're going to do to help out some of the elementary concerns that were talked about over the course of the winter. And so through intimation, board members had asked the administration to rethink some of our considerations, especially at the elementary level, and come back for this week with an option B, if you will. And so if you turn in your packet to the end, you'll see option A and option B. Option B has an additional 3 positions, 2 at the elementary level and 1 at the middle school level. It's an additional $300,000, and that was again in response to some of the concerns and suggestions raised by board members.
Great, thank you, and I think that the one other thing you had mentioned was, on the hearing position.
Yes, so let me speak to that. So originally we had bumped it up from a 0.6 to a 0.8. Then when the coronavirus hit, we dropped it back down to 0.6. At the last meeting, board members had raised that as a possible concern and asked me to at least give some consideration to that position. My recommendation at this point is that we can cover that position, which is about an additional $32,000, through leftover monies in the grants, which we know we will surely have. That would certainly get us through next year, and then if the board were so inclined, we could make that position, stay that position within the budget process, or make it full-time, depending on what the board's choice was.
So I think what I heard was that, with respect to this hearing position, that could be incorporated into either option A or option B. Was that what you said, Dr. Bass?
Yeah, you can put it in either one, and you can do it in a couple of ways. One, it could be just the additional 0.2, which would make it a 0.8, and there was some consideration for making it a full-time position, so an additional 0.2 on top of that. So just to be clear, if you went to 0.8, it would be an additional $32,000. If you went to a full position, 1.0 FTE, it would be approximately plus $52,000.
So with that, do board members hear that, or do board members have any questions for Dr. Bass?
Yes, I have a question. This is David Parker.
Yep.
With regard to the hearing impaired, I didn't know if Belmont had recommendations in terms of its requirement within the IEP process. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it might need to be a consideration so that we don't step out of our legal boundaries. Thank you.
No, thank you for that, and let me respond to that if I could. I did talk with Bob Belmont at length about the position, and Bob said his recommendation would be to make it a 0.8.
And that,
I think one of us have to go to another room, because this isn't gonna work. This is not gonna work.
If you get him a USB headset, he might be able to use that.
All right, let's just go off one computer, Jack. Let's just go off yours.
Yes, good one.
All right. Jenny, I'm going to move over to Jack. Jack, I'll keep my distance until it's my turn to speak. How's that? I'm going to sign off here, just so we're clear.
Yeah, sign off now.
Okay, I'm signing off.
and while our administrators are
Okay, I'm off. I'll just be over here on standby. Let me know when it's my turn to speak. How's that? That's your phone, right? Yeah.
Well, I think you're still communicating with them, right?
I was, so.
Yep, okay, yep,
That's my phone,
So I
right?
can hear Jack
Yep.
Yeah.
speaking with Dr. Bass.
yep, I'm gonna put him on. I'm just gonna, turn the, hold on a second. There you go. I put the camera on.
And at present,
Keep
I'm
your
not
distance,
hearing
Jack.
echo, so that's-
Okay.
All right, Jenny, can you hear me?
I hear you, and I do not hear an echo.
Oh, good.
And other board members hear Dr. Bass?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we've just abandoned one of our computers, so we're both sharing a computer here, so we don't have the echo and the feedback. So, what questions do you have of me?
Jenny, this is Chuck, may I
Yes.
ask a question?
Chuck, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure I heard correctly, and I think I did. So, if we have the grant money for the teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing for that position, so we have the grant money for this year, for this budget year, to go from the 0.6 to the 0.8.
Correct.
That's fine. and then we would make a decision the following year if we wanted to work it into the budget for the .8.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. That's what I thought you were saying. I just wanted to be clear, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I mean, I think I'm fine and comfortable with that, and thank you for that consideration. And given the fact we've got the public comment regarding that position, and, thank you for that movement in that area, and I think a lot of kids will benefit that need those services.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great, thank you, and the sound is much better now, so
Oh,
thank you
good.
for the adjustments. Do other board members have questions for Dr. Bass at this time?
I'd like to make a suggestion. I don't know that it's a question.
Sure, go ahead, Gina.
Well, I have had a problem with adding back the 5 special ed teachers, considering we just got rid of the whole assistant principal thing that we don't need to rehash. So I guess my suggestion would be to keep on the proposal, to keep the compliance officer, the nurse, the substitutes, the social worker, the OT, the teacher for hard of hearing, and then I had a question about the classroom teacher at Krista McAuliffe, and I had a question about the family visitor.
All right, so let me respond to the first part, then I'm going to turn to Donna for the second part. So on the first part, what you're suggesting, so that we're clear, is the 3 positions that are added back, 2 at the elementary level and 1 at the middle school. You're suggesting we not do that. You're suggesting we stay with option A. However, what you're also asking is there consideration for the Krista McAuliffe position? And the second part, I'm sorry, I lost the second part.
I had a question about the family visitor.
Oh, the family visitor, right. So let me do this. Again, if I want to hear what other board members have to say about the first part of your proposal. But before we talk about the second part, let's get some color from Donna.
The Krista McAuliffe teacher is for enrollment. So each year we take a look at what we're anticipating for each of the grade levels at the elementary, middle, high school, and that's the only enrollment increase across the district that we're requesting right now.
Right, and I understand that, but was there a spike last year in, what was it, 2nd grade? Is this for 3rd grade, is that correct? There's a spike for 3rd grade.
I believe so. So we had gone from 3 sections to 4 sections, and so we need to continue that up to the next grade. And I don't have my enrollment packet in front of me, so I can get you that answer, but I don't have the grade level with me right this minute. Or I think we said 3rd grade, so it must be the 2nd to 3rd, yeah.
So we went from 3 to 4 for 2nd grade.
I believe that's correct, Gina. I don't have my whole enrollment packet with me, so I'd have to answer that question by sending a note out or talking about it, maybe. Sending a note out probably. Okay, so I believe that's the case. It's basically a movement of a section of 4 section up to the next grade, where we only had 3 and now need 4.
Right, but do we now still need 4 at 2nd grade?
No.
Yes, because coming up behind is another 4.
Oh.
So Gina, this is Jenny, just to give a little context to this. So this, every year, and this was one of the very early budget presentations, but every year, basically there's an assessment of, based on our enrollment, how many sections do we need? And I believe, as Donna indicated, that this additional position is one that was added out of the superintendent's discretionary fund last year based on increases in enrollment, and so it's being added into the budget as an ongoing position because that enrollment bump in that particular group of students is expected to continue, and so that's something that we typically do every year, and it doesn't mean, so I don't know what grade level it is, but say it's in 2nd grade this year, it would be at 3rd grade next year. But the 2nd grade enrollment would not necessitate that additional section in that school. So it's just one position that moves with that group of students.
Okay, so let me ask a clarifying question. It's not that there were 4 2nd grade last year, and there are now going to be an additional 4 in 3rd grade. It's just that last year it was under discretionary budget, and this year it's going to be under the regular budget.
Yes, that's right, because we didn't anticipate having that many students. They were added, so that's what we typically do. That's what we use the superintendent's discretionary fund for. So we used it to add it on a one-year basis, but now it's being incorporated into the budget because that number of students is expected to continue in that grade at that school.
Right, so it's not actually a new person, it's just how that person is funded is going from line over here to line over there.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's an actual additional position for Crystal McAuliffe School next year because we have a lineup of 4 sections coming from K-1-2. They're marching up as 4s. And so it actually is an additional kindergarten teacher, a third grade teacher, an additional teacher for Crystal McAuliffe School in the budget.
So, but let me step back, and since we had kind of a rocky acoustical beginning to this session, at the last public hearing, we had asked the administration to drastically cut back on the budget due to the circumstances relating to kind of where we are right now, acknowledging that there was a lot of thought that went into the proposed budget and the posted budget, but that circumstances have changed so much that we were acknowledging that now is not the year to do a lot of new and different things. I think that was the option A that was presented, and that's also presented in the current slide deck. Based on the discussion among board members, I think Dr. Bass's thinking was, and I concurred in this, that given the complexity of kind of the situation, the circumstances under which we meet right now, it would be much more difficult for the board to come up with lots of little tweaks than we currently do, than we ordinarily do in our budget process. And so it would be easier just to have 2 options for us to choose between. One, a budget that added back in some of the special education teachers, because that was seen as a priority and certainly something we've been talking about a lot. And then the other would be that option A. And so I think the way our process will work from here is we're asking questions today, we're making sure we have answers and all of the information from our administrators, and then we're not actually debating which we prefer as a board today. We'll do that next Monday on the 13th when we take our final vote. But I do absolutely encourage board members to ask all of the questions that they need to make sure that we understand this, that the public understands it, and that the public comments on what we're actually considering. So I don't know if that helps, but there's a little background.
If I could just add one postscript to that.
So I'm having a hard time seeing the chat at the same time as the slide. So if you could just wait for me to acknowledge you, and then definitely we want to hear from the board members. So who was it that was trying to speak?
David Parker.
So David, go ahead. Thank you.
I need some clarification. I'm all for special education. And is it true that the 5 positions we eliminated last year to put it in a minute? This is for Donna, that we eliminated so that we could have the 5 administrators are now being replaced. Is that how this is looking?
Can I answer that?
No, that is not the case.
Okay.
The case is that we eliminated 2.5 coordinator positions, which were a teacher leader position in the teachers union. And for those 2.5 positions, they were not teaching, direct teaching or case manager. They were coordinators. So they were eliminated. These are totally separate and have nothing to do with the management of the special ed program. They are online special educators.
Yeah, let me add.
They're online special educators. Okay, thank you for that answer.
Can I also add to that, David? I mean, I think
Sure.
the consideration I'm having with these extra 2 positions, in all likelihood, they probably won't be special ed. It could be a social worker, it could be a school psychologist, so it's not necessarily a special ed position. I got to think that through and make sure that I've got touch base with everybody in terms of where the best need is. So I don't want it to be thought of as, oh, we're going to do all special education teachers. We're not. We're going to do what makes the most sense given the concerns that we have.
Thank you, Frank. That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. We can hear you much more clearly now, which is great.
Oh, how nice.
Are there other board member questions at this time?
Yeah, Jenny, this is Jim.
Jim.
I just wanted a clarification following up on Gina's question. So where is the superintendent's contingency budget now? And what is the change versus last year, if there is any? Thank you.
So the superintendent's, this is Jack, sorry, the superintendent's contingency is made up of 2 full-time teachers, 1 ed assistant, 1 tutor, and it's about $339,000.
So Jack, that's completely separate from these slides. So these slides are
Correct.
proposed new positions that we know now that we would be adding. We've got option A, which takes out many of what had originally been proposed. We've got option B, which adds back in a couple of positions, but kind of within the discretion of the administration to determine where they most needed, but they would in fact be funded positions if the board chooses option B. The superintendent's contingency, my understanding is, has not been changed since the original proposal and the posted budget. It remains, as Jack just said, defined kind of by position, but we just don't know yet what those would be, if that makes sense. Jim, does that answer your question?
Sorry, I have to unmute here quickly. That does answer my question. I'm just, because those 2 positions are in there, I just wanted us to have it in our consideration and evaluation of the AB. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. Other questions from board members? Okay, seeing none, Jack, why don't you continue with the slide presentation?
Okay. I'm gonna go up to the public hearing.
Yeah.
Let's see. So starting back from the beginning, so tonight's public hearing, we'll just go over high-level view of the budget. We'll show you the public information that's available online, and have a section for public comment, and then explain the upcoming meetings. So this information is, located in your board folder and also online under the SAU 8 School Board Budgets 2021 proposed budget. So this is the budget, which you'll term option A tonight, that we had come back revised after you posted. So instead of a $2.4 million increase, it was a $1.5 million increase, or 1.78%. This is the proposed changes that we had made. From the left, you see what was presented on 210 and what was posted on 3.5, and then what we updated on Monday, March 30th, showing instead of a $1.5 million increase in staffing, about a $45,000 increase in staff. We also made some other adjustments in the budget as it relates to unemployment and some things to be purchased at Runlet Middle School projector and some online instruction. And then we also, on the revenue side, saw a decrease, or projecting a decrease, due to the Federal Reserve's decrease in interest rates. So instead of earning about $125,000 on those trust funds, I'm projecting about 30. That's a $95,000 reduction. And then we also lowered the real growth expectation from a 0.77 to a 0.58, or $7.7 million decrease. So if you adopted this budget with these changes, you would look at a local rate increase of about 1.28%, and a net increase of 0.72 when you take the local and state and combine it. So that would be, so that would be about 11-cent increase over last year per thousand. Again, as Dr. Bass presented, this was the slide that led to what you had when you were having a conversation with him. I figured you could have, this was a response to your request, and that we had opened this for your discussion since this was a public hearing for Monday night. These slides were not on the posted because you had not seen those yet and didn't want to confuse that process until you heard it. So as we mentioned, the adjustments that were made, this is the slide that I just presented in the public hearing, showing you a $45,000 increase with those changes. we're going to term option A. And then option B is where we made some of those adjustments that Dr. Bass just talked about. And then we also show the impact of those tax rate. This was the one, again, presented on 330 that we talked about at the first public hearing. And then this is the one based on that first public hearing that if you chose option B, that would be the impact. All this information is posted on the district's website. There is a list of all the board members and their contact information that is also posted on the website. And here is a posting of all the hearings and the vote on the budget that's scheduled for next Monday. And before I hit the public comment, is there any questions? See if I can see the chat. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, sorry. I see chat's there. And then I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Hey, Jack, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Just a scheduling question. Do we have a meeting this coming Thursday?
No.
Okay. It must have made it up in my head. That's fine. I do that from time to time.
It's all right. If there's no other questions, I'll put up the public comment slide.
Oh boy.
Wait a minute, Jack. I just relaying over to, I'm not sure if Jenny can see your comments, but Jenny, do you need to check in with Barb and ask her the questions associated with the role? Because Barb is with us.
Oh, great question. Yeah, for some reason I got cut out for a second and just came back in. So Barb, can you please confirm your presence when you arrived and that you can hear everyone and whether anyone's in the room with you?
Hi, Jenny. I arrived at 5:40. I can hear everything. I've been following along, and I am all by myself.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jim, for alerting me to that.
Okay.
And so now I think we're moving into our public comment process, which I will ask Jack to moderate as he did last time. And again, we want to make sure we hear from members of the public, and we welcome comment for those who may be just watching it on CCTV. We absolutely welcome comment via email, so we will consider all comment that we receive when we deliberate on this budget next Monday.
So I'm scrolling down the right-hand side of people. I'm just going right down until I get to the first person that is not an administrator or a board member, and that is Miss Willingham, if she wishes to chime in.
I am just here to listen and watch. I have no comments to make. Thank you, though.
Okay. You're welcome. Moving on down. I do not see any other members of the public. The other administrator that is here is Paulette Fitzgerald from Runlet Middle School. But I do not see anything else. I'm going to hit others invited, but no, that's it. There's nobody else. So unless I'm missing something, I've scrolled up and down. I do not see anybody else.
So that would include anyone calling in on the phone number, as well as people who might be joining in the meetings.
Correct.
Okay, well, I hope we have more people participating for our 7 p.m. monthly meeting. We did, at our last public hearing, have a couple of members of the public who were able to comment, so the technology did work for that. We very strongly encourage members of the public to send us their thoughts and comments via email. We have been receiving a number of comments, and we absolutely will take those into consideration, and I think do some type of summary of them when we meet to make a final decision on this budget next Monday. So please do comment. We very much would like to hear from the public as between the option A and option B and any other comments on the budget that folks would like to make.
So Jada, I have a question. So would you like us to, yes, Frank, would you like us to bring back option A and option B, both options, to the meeting next Monday? And then the board can deliberate at that time to make a decision about which way they want to go.
Yes, because it's so important for us to hear from the public.
Uh-huh.
And I think all board members are really hoping, I mean, we're asking questions today to make sure that we understand the different options. But we really want to make sure we think about how to incorporate the public input that we've received so far during the process, which has been fairly substantial, which is great. And, just hash it all out when we meet. That will give the public time to make additional comments if they wish to, and also to get these slides that were presented tonight up on the website so everyone, public and board members alike, can take a look at them.
Okay. Any other comments from board members about either option A or option B? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
Sorry, I was
much.
trying to unmute.
Oh, go ahead, Gina.
Right. Sorry, I was trying to unmute and I couldn't get there. On the option, let me make sure I've got the right one. On the option B,
Yes.
are we adding a second nurse?
One nurse.
Last time?
No, just one nurse.
Down at the bottom,
Yeah, it's the,
number 18, RN
Check.
dedicated
Yep.
nurse.
Yep. There is a student that needs a nurse 5 days a week, 3 hours. This was, do you see the LPN MBS preschool increase? Remember that nurse that was discussed back at the curriculum and technology meeting? That's all right. I mean, there's a lot that happens and there's been a lot going on, but
I thought we were going with the floater.
correct.
So we need a floater plus.
The floater is a separate thing that was originally proposed. This is part of a requirement within a student's needs. This is a specific dedicated nurse to a specific student.
Okay, I just, on what I had looked at before.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't see it, but that's okay.
Yep.
My bad.
Nope, you're fine.
Jack, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Yeah, these are such unprecedented times. We and I've never gone through the budget process with you guys before. How much flexibility do we have if we vote on the budget and the enormous changes, like we're not going back to school or our schooling continues to stay online? And I'm not trying to be catastrophic. I'm just more wondering if we might have to make some pretty huge adjustments, and is that feasible, just from a protocol standpoint?
Well, I am working through a slide for your debate on the 13th about just other factors to consider. I mean, here's the thing. If we do not come back for the year, I expect that the unreserved fund balance will be higher. But things to consider is, if that's higher, remember, that's one-time money. The other thing is, when you look into positions, you're going to be issuing professional contracts. Now that obligates you, and 80% of the budget is there. So, that's something to consider. And then also beyond FY21, what are the things we need to consider as we go into FY22? So there'll be a number of things for you to have some to bat at on Monday night. But it's a good question.
Well, I don't want to get off track, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Jack,
Yes.
just to answer David's question, we do look at this, am I correct? However, that would require a different majority to make any changes.
Can you do me a favor, Jim, and repeat that? You were breaking up.
Sorry. Just to answer David's question, we do have in the fall. However, at that time, changes are a little more difficult because we require a different majority. Am I correct in that?
Correct. So you have their budget now that you need simple majority of the board. With, if you have 9 board members, you need 5 in the affirmative. Come October, you need 7 in the affirmative to make a change, so you need a super majority. But you do have that flexibility, yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
You're very
Thanks,
welcome.
Jim.
I think so. So I am all set on, well, no, I'm sorry. Let me, if there is nothing more on the public comment, I think I went through that information. And then the upcoming meetings, these are all posted. They're on the website. They already have banners. And for tonight's meeting, the monthly board meeting, as soon as this one adjourns, I will send you out a new link because it's my understanding you need a whole separate audio, conference ID, and everything for the next meeting.
Yep. No, that's great. Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you, everyone. And we will wait till 7 o'clock to convene that meeting because everyone knows that it starts at 7. So we have gained a little bit of time, I think. Unless there are other questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's Barb.
Seconded.
And I will second it.
So I think that was moved by Barb and seconded by Jim. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
No roll call on the adjourn vote. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. We'll reconvene at 7.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.